Okay, we're in Unit 3, Activity 4, and this is a major skill. It's called Hess's Law. It's just another way to find heat. So far we've done one way that is called an actual way of finding the heat, and that's something called a calorimeter, and you're going to be using that in with Hess's Law in your activity that goes here. And we've learned bond energies. What Hess's Law does is if you have a reaction and you want to know the heat of it, so here's our reaction, you can use known reactions and get them to add up to this one big reaction. So what we're going to do is like a giant puzzle. And what we want to do is take these three reactions right here, we're going to add them up to do this overall reaction. Now, one of the major tricks here is to find your molecules in this target reaction. And there is only one molecule here, and that's the C2H2, which is ethine. You've got carbon, which is an element, and you've got hydrogen, which is an element. Now, you might not think this looks like an element because we've got a subscript here, but it's only a molecule when you have more than one type of element in it. Once you locate that molecule, you want to get it in the right place. Notice that this is on the product side and this is on a reactant side, so we want to flip this reaction. So I am going to write the 2CO2 and the H2O over here, and the 5/2 O2 plus C2H2 over here. Now, once I've done this, I put a little arrow down, just showing me that I've done it, just so I can keep track of what I've done. I'm going to cross out that reaction and I'm going to change the sign. Because I flipped the reaction, I flipped the sign. Now at this point, I want to stop you and I want to say you might have to watch this video 2 or 3 times to get this. Take your time with it, one step at a time, figure out how this works, and that's the advantage to having a video. You can keep going back over things. Now, I've got all the molecules where I want them, right there. Now what I have to do is I have to look down here and find any molecules that are not up here. So for example, CO2 is not up here. Well, what can I do? I've got to get rid of CO2. Well, what you can do is if something's on the product side and something's on the reactant side, you can cross it out. But I don't have enough CO2s here to cross that out. So I'm going to multiply this line by 2. If I multiply this by 2, I've got to multiply this number here by 2. So if I take 393.5 and multiply it by 2, I now have negative 787. Okay, so now I can cross out this molecule. Let's see if there's any other molecules I need to cross out. Yes, I've got an H2O. So what I'm doing is I'm crossing out molecules that are not up here. I leave the elements to the end. H2O, H2O. Okay, now I'm going to look for elements to cross out. I do have an H2 and I do have an H2. I do have a 2C and I do have a 2C. I've got oxygens here, but I don't have oxygens over here. So I've got 5/2 oxygens I have to get rid of, and over here I have a half. Let's put everything in terms of a denominator of 2. So 2 would be like 4/2. Okay, now I've got 1/2 plus 4/2 is 5/2, and I've got 5/2 there. Folks, this is not the easiest question in the world, so you're jumping in the deep end here. I would highly suggest you go on YouTube and look up simple Hess's Law problems and see what you come up with, because they picked a doozy. So I've got 2C plus H2 gives C2H2. I said the whole trick was to get this to look like this. Now all you have to do is add up these 3 numbers to get your final heat for the reaction. So to get your final answer, it's going to be 1299 minus 787 minus 288 equals 224. So this is an endothermic reaction, and it gains 224 kilojoules of energy. Notice I didn't put the units in. I try and keep this neat, and I try not to get too messy. As I say that, I'm looking at all this crossing out here. Let's try one more problem. So we have a target reaction, and we want to know its heat. I go through, I circle my molecules, and then I come down here and I try and get my molecules all in the right place. So I'm going to flip this one, and then I'm going to rewrite it down here. I'm going to have C3H8 gives 3C plus 4H2, and then I'm going to cross that out so I don't get confused. I look at the CO2, I've got 3 of them, so I'm going to multiply this by 3. It's in the right place, that's on the product side, that's on the product side, but I'm going to multiply by 3. Notice I'm doing my little signs, multiply by 3, flip it. Hey, sometimes you have to divide to get the right number, but this is going to help me take care of my numbers in the end. Now I've got H2O. I'm going to multiply by 2 because I've got 4 H2Os here. I need 4 here. And now I've got my 3 reactions, 2, 3, and 1. I go through and I start circling what I've got on my product side. I circle my reactants. I look for my 5 O2s. I've got 3 plus 2. Everything else is going to cancel out. Uh-oh, I got a problem. I've messed up here. We've got 4 H2O liquid and I did 4 H2O gas. So we cannot do this because you have to have the right state. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to erase all of this. There was a 4th reaction here, and I ignored that 4th reaction. What I have to do is I have to flip this and multiply by 4 because it's my H2O liquid that I need to have 4 of on the right hand side. So I'm going to flip it and I'm going to multiply by 4. Now what I have to do, I'm going to cross that out. I'm going to have 4 H2O liquid, 3 CO2 gas, but I've got a problem now. I've got H2O gas here and here. So I'm going to have to multiply this one by 4 because I need to be able to cancel out my H2O gases. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this. Once you mess up, things get really messy. So the best thing to do is start over. I'm not doing that. Folks, my big mistake there was I didn't take a look at the signs when I did this. Notice I did this one without any numbers. I usually do it without the numbers, and then I look at all these signs here and I multiply everything through by at the end to get the proper answer. Look for your molecules up here, get them all in the right spot and the right numbers. Look for the molecules down here that are not up here, cancel them out, take care of your elements at the end. This is part 1. I am going to do the actually, you know what? I think I'll keep going here. No, I'll stop here. I'm going to do the activity that you guys have to do, the lab, so I'll do that as a part 2.